Game number 43 for the Boston Celtics as they search for win number 33 in Brooklyn against the Nets. Welcome into the Celtics pregame report for CLNS Media. I'm your host, Josue Pavone. I'm joined by Bryan Fonseca of NetsDaily.com, who is taking time after this blizzard up in the Northeast to join me. What's going on, Bryan?
What's going on, man? Just trying to stay warm.
I hear you. How bad was it over there compared to here in Boston?
Oh, well, I didn't leave my house yesterday, so let's just go right
You
there.
and me both. Yes.
Yeah, I was just working from home. I was not trying to leave. I saw the snow outside. I was like, nah, man. You're gonna have to take the L on this one.
See, this is one of the advantages of living in an apartment complex where you don't have to necessarily go out there and shovel until you're ready to make your move, you know? So I've been kind of hanging out and procrastinating that move. I'm going to have to shovel probably before this game at some point.
Got you. I got to remember that when I'm looking for apartments.
So last week, the night of New Year's Eve, when the Celtics held off the Brooklyn Nets in that final minute, I thought to myself, man, this is going to be interesting next Saturday when these two teams face each other again. But then I thought to myself, wait a minute, maybe this is the norm from the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe the Nets typically tease their fans at the end of games, you know, with a chance to win, and then they drop into a loss. Is that a fair assessment, Bryan, or did they have a shot of surprising the Celtics last week, in your opinion?
I think they had a shot because they're one of these teams now. I kind of saw this, manifesting late last season when Jeremy Lin got healthy, right? Where they looked like a team who wasn't just gonna go out there and get blown out like they were doing routinely early last year. Even with injuries, so to speak. And this year, again, hampered by injuries. Jeremy Lin, just talked about him, out for the season. D'Angelo Russell's been out for a while, and he'll be back, at a later date. We don't know when yet. But I say all that to say the Nets, they've really given a lot of teams challenges. They've even beaten teams that they probably shouldn't have beaten. And, if you remember, Cleveland early on in the season was one of those big victories where Spencer Dinwiddie had one of his first true breakout games. And at that point, D'Angelo Russell was out, which is why it was big that Spencer Dinwiddie got that start. D'Angelo Russell was out, Jeremy Lin was out, and they ended up rising to the occasion. LeBron had 8 turnovers, and they beat the Cavaliers. So they're really not a team who's going to go out there and just get blown out, like they had in the last couple of seasons. They've had performances here and there, like they got blown out by Toronto not that long ago. I believe Indiana early in the season, but this is a team that's going to fight, and that's what I think makes them really interesting is that regardless of who they play, they're going to go out there and fight, and it's just a matter of whether they're good enough to win.
Yeah, you see a handful of guys on this team that certainly go out there and try to prove themselves. A couple of years ago, we were just learning about Rondae, Hollis-Jefferson, and all of a sudden you have a handful of other players from the Brooklyn Nets that can pretty much go off or put up a good performance on any given night. But which player has surprised you the most out of those type of guys this season?
I'd probably stick with the person you just named. I go Rondae, Hollis-Jefferson, and a lot of other people will say Spencer Dinwiddie. So I'll talk about them both a little bit. Rondae, Hollis-Jefferson, to me, and I've written about this, more than once, he is somebody who was probably on the trading block, or, they should get rid of him, and people are calling him a bust and all this. And then this year he turns around and is averaging 15 points per game, which is not an insignificant number in the NBA, especially for somebody who developed a reputation for not being a scorer and actually being a hindrance on offense. Now he's your best offensive player when D'Angelo Russell is not on the floor, which he hasn't been for nearly 2 months now. And Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is not only just averaging 15 points a game, he's not just doing it on dunks and layups, he's getting the ball in the low block. He's turning around facing other defenders, and he's shooting over them or driving on them from 12 to 15 feet out. He has a consistent mid-range jumper now, so that's been really, really fun to kind of watch that development and kind of cover that, because he's somebody who's really, turned it around, and he's somebody who could be in line for a big contract next summer, and so could Spencer Dinwiddie, who has made a big leap this season so far. He's averaging 13 points basically and 6.5 assists. These are starting point guard type numbers, and a lot of Net fans want him to get into the All-Star game. So Spencer Dinwiddie is somebody who's made a big leap. These are two guys who should get votes for most improved player, in the NBA. I don't think either of them are going to win because Victor Oladipo might end up running away with that if his play continues. But those two, they're definitely going to be somewhere in the top 10, so to speak. If I have two of those guys on the same team at that young, because Spencer Dinwiddie just turned 24 last summer, and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson just turned 23 a few days ago. So,
right.
Both these guys are also very, very young. So,
and you still got D'Angelo Russell waiting around.
Yeah, and he'll be 22 in a month. Yeah. So, they got a lot of youth. Definitely.
This edition of the Celtics pregame report is brought to you by DraftKings.com. Head to DraftKings.com and use the promo code CLNS for a free sign-up with your first deposit and a shot at a share of $10,000 in total prizes. That's DraftKings.com. Make sure you use the promo code CLNS and get paid. So a lot has been made about the Celtics win over the Cavaliers this week. I mean, us in Boston, of course, we know that this Cleveland team will not be complete until Isaiah Thomas is completely back and in that starting lineup. However, what did you make of the Celtics win over the Cavs? And do you think that they're a lot closer to competing with the Cavs in a 7-game series than most people actually give them credit for?
I'm actually one of those people who, I really don't think the Cavs could be totally judged yet without Isaiah Thomas. It's hard. It's hard to kind of, because he's going to be such a big part of what they do. I don't know if people fully understand, and you understand because, living in Boston, you saw it up close, what he did for Boston the last couple of seasons. Yeah, so, I think he's capable of filling the Kyrie Irving role, so to speak, because he's that kind of player. He's just, smaller and left-handed, but, he's that kind of player, and he's proven to be that. So, I do make that Boston, great defensive team. We've seen it time and again. And yes, Cleveland didn't have Isaiah Thomas, to my point, but still, you're able to hold a team with LeBron on the floor. LeBron didn't even have 20 that game from what I remember. I think he only finished with 19.
19,
and he struggled that night. Yeah, and Cleveland, on a night where Kyrie Irving only dropped 11 points, Boston was still able to win by 14. So, but, I want to see how that goes with Isaiah Thomas out there. And unfortunately for Boston, I still think they're really good, but I feel like, Gordon Hayward going down, it doesn't hurt you as bad when Jason Tatum is what he is and Jaylen Brown is what he is. But, obviously, they would have been a better team, in my opinion. But I still think that's going to be a fun series to watch in the Eastern Conference Finals, because I do think they're both going to get there. And I think it could be a lengthy series, definitely.
All right, well, who wins tonight? Brooklyn or Boston?
I think Brooklyn's catching a little bit of a hot hand right now. They got their back-to-back wins for the first time in about a month, so I'm gonna roll with Brooklyn on that. I do remember that the last time I said that they lost, but I feel like they as to your point earlier, they played a tight game against Boston before. And it's a home game. I just think that they'll do just enough to pull it out. Jahlil Okafor is out there now, so I'd like to see what he can do against a team like Boston, who is very, very good defensively. So, but I think Brooklyn will get the win, but I'm not gonna live and die with that result either. I'm just throwing a prediction out there.
Have they completely unleashed Okafor yet? I mean, I've been waiting for that to happen for weeks now. I feel like they've taken longer than I expected them to.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, the Nets are very, very methodical with their thinking. Definitely very patient during the Okafor process, and with Jahlil Okafor, it's just a matter of, it was a mutual decision, to my understanding, that with him and with the performance team, with the Nets coaching staff, that, after that Toronto game, which he played 22 minutes, he had 10 points, 4 rebounds, so the numbers didn't look bad, but it was just a matter of, I want to condition myself better, and they thought the same thing, that he should condition, just get in better basketball shape, because it's not even that because I've seen him, he's got abs, you know what I mean? He's definitely lost 20, 25 pounds, he's on the vegan diet, the whole thing, but it's just a matter of, getting into basketball shape is different than being in good physical shape, which is different from not being in shape. So, there's levels to this, as Meek Mill would say, and with Jahlil, and with Jahlil Okafor, it's just a matter of, he's barely played this season at all. So to get him and just throw him out there for 20, 25 minutes, 15 minutes isn't realistic if you want to get quality product out of him. So while it angered a lot of Net fans to kind of, sit him out for an additional, 2 or 3 weeks after he played those initial minutes against Toronto, I do understand the Nets thinking here. And Net fans do want to see him. They got to see him a little bit against Minnesota, and which was a favorable looking performance. He didn't light up the stat sheet. He only had a couple points, couple rebounds, but he was effective on defense, trying to disrupt offense and changing shots and things of that nature. So he looked good out there for what it was, and I think we'll start to see him more and more incrementally. I'm not sure if he'll be a starter or anything like that down the line, but I think he'll be a consistent contributor moving forward at some point.
All right, he is Bryan Fonseca. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Bryan with the Y, Fonseca, NY, of course, standing for New York. Follow him on Twitter. And make sure you check out his stuff over at netsdaily.com. Has a close eye on this team, and he pumps out some really good articles, man. I checked out your work, man. Good stuff.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I hope you got to see the Lil B one, because that to me was some hilarious stuff.
What was it? He lifted the curse, right?
Yes, he lifted the curse of D'Angelo Russell, and I was just explaining to somebody a little while ago. The Lil B curse is legit. Kevin Durant, like, people think I'm playing. Kevin Durant got the curse, and then he didn't beat Golden State, and then he went to join the Warriors.
Yeah, I remember.
From Oakland. Yeah, so you know what I mean? Russell Westbrook got the curse, and they exited out of the playoffs, and then he was fine after that. D'Angelo Russell got the curse. He had an season. He ended up getting traded, getting injured. Now the curse is uplifted, and he's going to come back, and he's going to be wrecking stuff when he comes back, probably, because the curse of Little B is gone.
So that means he's going to go off. That means he's probably going to come back soon.
Maybe he comes back sooner because the curse is uplifted. You better hope Kyrie Irving doesn't get that Little B curse, man.
Well, I mean, he blessed Gordon Hayward, so hopefully he's on the Celtics side. We'll see, though. It's still plenty of... Who knows what the future will entail.
Right, Gordon Hayward's about to make a speedy recovery. You watch.
If he does, we're going to talk about it. All right, Bryan.
All right.
Thanks again, man.
Absolutely. All right. Anytime.
We'll talk again soon. That will wrap up this edition of the Celtics pregame report. Make sure you check out the Celtics postgame show on the clnsmedia.com website. You can call in toll free at 347-215-7771 after the game to get on the air. Or just like this show, you can listen to it on demand on the CLNS Media mobile app. The weekday shows air on the Celtics Newsfeed channel on iTunes, Stitcher, and the CLNS Media mobile app. For today's Boston Celtics pregame report with Josue Pavone, this is Josue Pavone signing off.